going on, guys? And welcome to my current new hangar, which is a space that I'm renting from my buddy Ryan. And what's great about this hangar is it's insulated and heated. And this time of year, that is huge because as some of you guys probably know that live in the colder climates and have been hangared in an uninsulated, unheated hangar, it could be a little bit of a pain. And since it is currently snowing sideways, blowing 40-something miles an hour, I figured today is a good day for me to talk about winter flying and everything that comes with it. But before I get into this, I do want to say a huge shout out and thank you to the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. For those that don't know, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a website and run your business. Start with one of their award-winning templates. You craft it into your own professionally, beautifully crafted website. They have 24/7 customer support and features for every industry, so I don't care what it is you want to do with your website, whether it's an online store, personal blog, maybe a photo gallery to show off your work. You can do it with Squarespace. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to purchase, go to squarespace.com/Trent Palmer. It's gonna get you 10% off. All right, so this video does kind of come by request. I've had a few people commenting, asking how I handle certain parts of cold weather or winter weather flying and just even handling of the aircraft. So that's what we're gonna get into in this video. Now, first off, I will say winter flying can be some of the best flying. I freaking love it up here at sunset like this, especially when it's like nice, cool, high performance air. Is that even a thing? Cool air is thick air. Your aircraft is going to perform better on takeoff and landing just because the thicker air. Your prop bites harder, wing works better, and for any naturally aspirated engine, you're gonna make more effective horsepower when it's cold. And then also, you're not gonna be dealing with any sort of engine overheating issues like we might see in the summer. Heater kicked on, I apologize about that. It's part of the nice thing about this hangar, but it's not so great for my audio, so if it screws it up, I apologize. But aside from just the thicker air helping performance, obviously we're not dealing with engine temp issues as far as trying to overheat like we see in the summer. If anything, we're working to keep our engines warm enough in the winter. And another thing too, on a calm day during a high pressure system, there are certain days that you can literally fly sunrise to sunset and there isn't a single bit of bumps. It is baby bottom smooth, the best air you're ever gonna get, simply because we're not dealing with any of the thermic or convective activity. So winter flying can be some of the best flying, but there are other variables and other things at play that you kind of have to keep in mind when you're flying in the colder months. From the type of flying I do, there's a couple unique factors that come into play in the winter that aren't there in the summer. Some of which is just being snow on the airstrips. Now, a lot of people ask if we can land on the snow, and with the big tires, can it roll over snow? And the short answer is no. Snow is too inconsistent and unpredictable to reliably say you can land on it with bush wheels. It is insane because certain times, say you have 8 inches of just blower, lightweight, sugary powder, sure, you can land in that and just taxi right through it. But you might come back 2 hours later after the temps have heated up, that snow settles a bit, and I will tell you, as little as 3 inches of just slushy, heavy snow is enough to put one of these things up on their nose. So with those things considered, normally landing with bush wheels on snow is kind of a no-no. We have landed on some frozen lakes, and I have actually landed on snow, but the only reason I did that was I had a buddy that was on skis. He landed out there. He was out jumping up and down, showing me how firm the snow was. I did a couple passes dragging it and decided it was smart. But actually, once we were on the ground, it was pretty fun playing, doing some donuts and all that. But again, that was like kind of a unique instance. I don't think landing on the snow, for the most part, is a safe practice with wheels. Now, a bunch of you guys too have asked when I'm gonna put skis on the plane, and the short answer is I don't really plan on doing that because normally we don't have a reliable or long-lasting snowpack here that would really give me enough time to get comfortable and proficient on skis. And because, like I mentioned, snow conditions can change so rapidly, you really got to be on top of ski flying, and it's something that I have a ton of respect for. And for the guys that are up in Alaska or northern Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, or even over by the Great Lakes, they have great areas to do a lot more ski flying. But out here, we tend to get a storm and then it heats up right after it, and then the snowpack, especially out in the desert, just it starts to melt. Everything's inconsistent. I probably wouldn't get proper use out of it. So it's not really in the cards for me as far as ski flying for right now, but who knows, maybe in the future. Now, another big thing that comes into play with any sort of flying, but especially the bush flying, is keeping in mind that you are flying in an environment that if something goes wrong, you are gonna need to be able to survive until someone can come to get you in the event that you have to either put down for an emergency landing or worse yet, have some sort of issue that would lead to a wreck. And with winter days being so short, it's something that I don't normally like to go out and push it too late in the evening, because if you had just even a little issue, you might be pushing it into dark and now no one can come and get you and you're dealing with crazy frigid cold nights. So normally in the winter, I like to get going earlier in the morning and try to leave time to get back early. So if you were to have any issues, you're not running into immediate darkness. Also, another thing with flying, and this is regardless of time of year, but you try to remember to dress for what you are flying over, not where you are flying to. So sure, maybe you take off somewhere that's warm, you're gonna fly to another warm place, you think, hey, I might as well just wear some thin clothes because it's gonna be warm there, I got a heater in the plane, I'll be good. The problem is, the whole idea is dress for egress. If you were to have some forced landing out in the snow somewhere and you're gonna be stuck there, things are gonna get bad really quick. Obviously too, carrying the proper survival gear. I did a video on my survival bag probably a year ago. I can post a link up here, but I also need to recater it. You guys had some awesome comments for that, but having enough cold weather survival gear is super important. So what I guess I'm getting at is, when it comes down to it, there are a lot of added risks to winter flying that sometimes can slow our roll. When you factor in these weather systems coming in, we know we have something coming tomorrow. Maybe it's not a good idea to go out today because God forbid you get stuck out there, then people can't even come to get you tomorrow. So there are times that winter flying can also be more difficult and can kind of just hold you back from the gate, because you're saying there's just an unnecessary risk to flying in these kind of conditions. Now that kind of covers the operations side, or the flying in the winter portion, which, you know, to sum it up, there's cool air is thick air and oftentimes it's smooth air. So the flying is very nice, but you have to be a little bit more prepared, kind of be a little bit more active on not risking more than you need to in the winter, because things can turn bad really fast. Whereas in the summer, you might have a little bit more leeway with longer daylight and having warmer, more survivable temperatures at night. Now, the other side of all this is obviously aircraft management and storage in the winter. Now, in a hangar like this that is heated, I don't have to run anything for an engine heater. It keeps it warm enough in here that I can just pull out, fire it up. In my old hangar, I did run a little engine heater. I'll show you what that was. Basically, it's this little aircraftheaters.com, but it's this little heater that I would stick inside my cowling, and all it does is just blow hot air in there. I'd put a sleeping bag around the outside of my cowling just to kind of insulate it, but that thing would just hold it at, I think, like 55 degrees, which is warm enough for a clean start. And then obviously other people will run something like this, which is a heater into just a little, basically dryer vent tube. In my old engine, I actually had a little oil pan and block heater that you could plug in that would keep it really nice and toasty, but I didn't end up putting that on the 915 just because I was trying to keep it as light and simple as possible. Now, for those of you wondering why we would even need to deal with preheating an engine, if your car doesn't need to preheat, why would your airplane? Well, overall, engines don't really love starting when they're cold, including car engines, but aircraft engines, specifically the older air-cooled ones, have a really hard time with it. The reason being, the oil when it's cold gets very viscous and thick, so it doesn't do a very good job of lubricating. Also, most air-cooled aircraft engines are gonna have a steel cylinder with an aluminum piston, so with those non-similar metals, they have different thermal properties as far as expanding, so aluminum is gonna heat up quicker and expand quicker, being the piston. So what happens is you start up your engine, and if you let it warm up too fast, piston's gonna get hot, it's gonna expand into the cylinder and end up honing out your cylinder. And again, since your oil isn't hot, and it can do a lot of hard wear on an engine in a very short amount of time just from a cold start. So that's the reason you see everyone trying to keep their engines warm. The guys in Alaska with their Cubs are wrapping blankets around it when they're stopped, just because really cold weather is hard on engines, especially when you let the engine get cold for the start. Rotaxes aren't quite as finicky. They can just start a little rougher in the cold. Even the fuel injected one, even though it does start easier than the carbureted ones, I still can struggle when it gets really cold. So I try to keep it, you know, in a usable range. It's just hard on stuff, starting them when they're that cold. That's pretty much it when it comes to the engine side of things. It's just making sure that you have things heated. Make sure that you are getting your engine up to temp. You do want to make sure that your engine gets hot enough during the flight to boil off any water that might be in your oil from condensation or anything like that. I think you need to get it up to like 190 degrees. So a lot of us, you'll see putting some sort of tape or cover over our oil cooler and radiator on a Rotax. Other guys are just covering oil coolers, but you do want to get your oil temps up warm enough during the winter, so that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm trying to think of what else plays into winter flying, aside from just battling weather and harsh conditions. If you were to have to get stuck out there in the short days, a little bit of preheating. Obviously, if you're an instrument guy, cold clouds are ice clouds, so don't be flying into clouds in the winter unless you have known icing or the proper equipment, but again, that's way outside my pay grade. I am just a VFR pilot, so I can't really speak to that. But overall, I think that covers it. Don't land on snow with bush wheels unless you're confident that you know the consistency of the snow, and try not to get stuck out there because it's gonna get cold. I'm gonna wrap this one up here. You guys know the drill. Like this video if you do. Subscribe if you haven't. Come be my wingman. See you on the next one. Peace.